would like to call this special meeting of the Desert Water Agency Board of Directors to order on April 2nd, 2025 at 10 o'clock. Some housekeeping. First of all, for those that would like to participate remotely, the information to do so is available on the agenda that was posted yesterday. And for those that are in the audience, if you could mute your electronic devices, and for those participating remotely, if you could mute your microphones until or unless you're ready to speak. And with that, for discussion and questions, I will call on directors in the following roll call order: Director Gracia, Director McKenna, Secretary Treasurer Bloomer, Vice President Bowman, and President Ortega. And all votes will be conducted via the roll call. And with that, I will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. All right. Ms. Baca, may we proceed with the roll call, please?
Director Gracia,
Present.
Director McKenna,
Present.
Secretary Treasurer Bloomer,
Present.
Vice President Bowman,
Here.
and President Ortega.
Present.
All present.
Thank you. Item 4 on our agenda today is public comment on items listed on the agenda. So this is a time for members of the public to make comments regarding today's agenda items. We ask that you keep your comments to no more than 3 minutes. Have we received any public comments ahead of time?
No comments have been received.
Okay. Do we have any members of the public who would like to participate or speak? Seeing none, we can move to the next item, which is item 5. It's an action item. And I will ask, the action item is a request for board approval of the mission, vision, and values for the 2025-2030 strategic plan. And I guess we'll start with General Manager Johnson.
Thank you, President Ortega and members of the board. So we have for you here today Jeanette Williams. I think you're all familiar with Jeanette. I don't know if you've met her in person or if it's just been on Zoom, but she's here. She has a little PowerPoint to go over. She's going to go over our mission, vision, and value statements that we've all been working on. And at this time, we would like to recommend that the board take an action to approve or not approve the mission, vision, and values. And Ms. Williams also has an update on our initiatives and goals that we've been working through to, and provide the board with just an update on that, and maybe get some feedback from the board on those items. So, and with that, I'd like to introduce Jeanette Williams.
Thank you. Welcome all. I appreciate the opportunity to work with the agency and the staff. So to bring everyone up to speed on what we've been working on over the last several months is we've done several iterations of looking at the mission, vision, and values, which is really the bedrock of a strategic plan. It's also something that you use when you go out for grants or when you're communicating to the public about what's important to us as an entity. And therefore, we wanted to make sure that there was inclusivity in the process. And so we went ahead and we had individual meetings with the executive team, and the department heads. We also had a workshop here where we had 64 of the staff members come and work through not only the mission, vision, and values, but also some of the strategic initiatives that they wanted to kind of be part of the voice. So it's been a top-down, bottom-up process by which we want to present to you the mission, vision, values that was ran through a couple of different iterations with everyone to really make sure that it wasn't just words on a piece of paper, but something that can be actually actionable in terms of not only what we're here to do and why we exist, but also where we want to be as an agency in the next 3 to 5 years, and what our values are and how we're going to hold ourselves and each other accountable to do the work. So I'll pause there because I believe you have the mission, vision, and values in front of you, and would like to open up for a dialogue if there's any questions or things that we could discuss before we put it for a vote.
Well, I think I wouldn't mind if you would actually just go through it with us.
Yeah, that'd be fantastic. Okay.
Thank you.
So you have them in front of you, but I'll just read. So with the mission, vision, values, the first thing is the mission, and that is really why we exist. And so what we proposed, let me put on my glasses because that's what age I'm at now, to responsibly manage our water resources to ensure ongoing sustainability and deliver safe, reliable water in an effective way for current and future generations. So that is where everybody has put their input in and feels like that should be the mission. That's what we exist to do. So I'll pause to see if there's any thoughts or questions.
I'll just let folks start if they have any. Director Gracia?
So this is what we're working on today?
Correct,
This
yeah.
page? What else is included in the strategic plan that, I referred to another experience at another agency where they put everything in the plan and then the general manager picked things from it that he wanted to do and then did them and said, well, they were in our strategic plan, so you approved them.
Sure.
And I found that to be very offensive, and I don't know if we're doing that here, but I hope not. So with that experience, I just wanted to share so that I could have a better understanding of what else is in the plan. This has got to be a booklet of probably 30 pages. So this is the extent of what we're seeing.
Okay, fair. So this is one of many steps. Sylvia, is there any way that we can put on the that one PowerPoint? That's a really great question. And so I want to just draw your attention, if you could, to the screen that shows really the kind of the approach we're taking. We're taking this in a stepwise approach, where the first couple of our iterations together is really laying the foundation of what the mission, vision, values are. We pause there, we get consensus, we approve, and then we move on. So there are no hidden agendas. You will be part of the whole process. And then from there, we're going to talk about the strategic initiatives and goals that are just preliminary thoughts that we have been able to mine from not only the senior team and the executive team, but also the members, all the staff. That's what we'll talk about second in our two-part conversation today. Then once we agree on or think that those are the initiatives, then we kind of memorialize those and we start to get in the details of the tactical part, the operational part of the strategic plan. So there will be, along this whole journey, a pause, reflection, and a vote before we move on to the next thing. You won't get a whole plan that I hand to you and say, please sign off on it. Does that make sense? So this is a very inclusive process.
So how many of these meetings do you expect?
Well, this one will be the first of probably about 2 others besides that, so a total of 3. So this is memorializing mission, vision, values, and talking about the preliminary strategic initiatives and goals. Once we have your feedback on that, we can start putting together an operational plan, which we would bring back to make sure that that aligns, approved on that. And then we would move to a final version, which is all baked out for you to look at and be able to see it. So you'll be able to be part of the process from an iterative perspective.
All right, thank you.
Might I add just a little bit more to that? It's from the practical sense, kind of on this side, being able to have the strategic initiatives, that doesn't necessarily intend that over the next 5 years is going to be all encompassing of every single project that we are going to do. So it's more of being able to evaluate as we go through budget, as we go through the different projects that we want to put in place here at the agency, align it with, now does it align with our initiatives? Does it align with our mission, vision, and values so that it can be another lens for which to evaluate and help to prioritize our efforts where resources are constrained, or just guiding what it is that we do so we do not start off on a tangent that's going in a different way, so we can focus our resources, time, and attention.
If I could just say something, in some ways, I look at what we're doing today as what we've done with like the legislative, what do we call it? Our legislative guidelines. It's a way of giving staff, it's a way of giving the board sort of setting what the agenda is going to be at a high level. And then that's what staff is then using when bills come forward that we may or may not support, or initiatives that we would like to see at the state legislature or in Congress. That's kind of how I look at what we're doing today. Is that a fair, would you say that's a fair comparison?
I would agree that it's generally a fair comparison, but here we have other financial components of it as well, where there may be other touch points for decisions. So I think it's bigger than that, because that we are taking positions on bills, whether we support, not support, and what level of effort we're providing to those. But in this instance, it guides us, and within a certain level that the authority is at the staff level to make decisions that align with it. And then as the authority is exceeded from the staff level, just as we have like in our procurement policy, well, this is a $1 million effort. Staff does not have that level of authority to make that decision. Therefore, that is a board decision when it comes to either budget or signing a contract or things of that nature.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other questions?
Thank you.
No? Thank you. Go ahead.
Great. So if we could put back up, Sylvia, the mission, vision, values, we'll continue on. So the purpose of the vision is to say this is where we want to go over the next 3 to 5 years. And this was wordsmithed together with everyone to make sure that we include very inclusive of the different types of work that the agency does as a whole. So it reads as such: to ensure a sustainable water future through sound fiscal and policy management, employee and customer engagement, efficient operations, reliable infrastructure, and strategic partnerships. So we will be focusing on those particular things over the next 3 to 5 years. I'll pause to see if there's any thoughts or questions.
Let's talk about reliability.
Okay.
When I hear that word, I think of a reliable water supply.
Mhm.
Then you make a wide left turn right into a brick wall here when you say providing trustworthy, responsive, consistent, and dependable service to colleagues and the community. I don't see one word about water in there. What are we really saying here?
So are you, so we're on the vision. So what I'm hearing you say is reliable in the vision statement, and then in the values, is that where you're juxtaposing those two words?
It kind of says, I just would like to hear you tell us what that means. Instead of me trying to figure out what it means, just tell us, what does it mean? It's because I could see where it could be used as a wedge to, down the road.
Okay, that's fair. So let's separate two things out. So we're going to talk about the vision, and then we'll get into the values when we mean about reliability. But within the vision, we are talking about a reliable infrastructure, and that is reliable in that it can show up and it does its job. The infrastructure should be something we rely that it happens without, like there's always going to be maintenance of such, but it's a reliable infrastructure that we have done our due diligence to make sure that it is an infrastructure that is able to do the job and deliver the water and deliver the resources that we're mandated to do, as well as what we're telling our customers we're going to do. So that's what that in reliable infrastructure is meaning. So we'll pause there just to talk about the reliable infrastructure and the vision.
Well, like I say, it says dependable service to colleagues.
You're in the values. Yeah. So there's two different ones. Yeah. So there's the vision, which is the one statement that says to ensure a sustainable water future through sound fiscal and policy management, employee and customer engagement, efficient operations, reliable infrastructure, and strategic partnerships. So that's the vision. That is what we're going to be doing over the next 3 to 5 years, ensuring those things are happening. It's the vision.
I think Director McKenna has a comment.
It's a minor quibble. In fact, it may not even rise to the level of a
Okay.
minor quibble, but I think I would put community before colleagues in that reliability definition.
So we're down in the vision, we're down in the values. So I think we should pause on the
I-
vision
I-
and go to the values.
Yeah, I think,
Yes, okay, so I do agree. Okay, so I feel like I want to go with where you want to go.
But-
So,
can I just interrupt for a moment?
Sure.
Just so we're clear, when you're talking about reliable infrastructure in the vision, you're referring specifically to water infrastructure.
we're talking to the
Right,
infrastructure,
but when
yes.
we're talking about the vision, we're talking about reliability. It doesn't necessarily have to just do with water infrastructure. Reliability, as far as the value, all these values that are listed here are not necessarily replicated, above in the vision. I'm just trying to draw the distinction to maybe hopefully let us move forward.
Yes.
That maybe it's just because we see reliable and we see reliability,
Okay,
but
fair.
we're not referencing the same things.
Exactly.
Right.
Okay, fair.
So that reliability, that reliable in the vision relates to water. The reliability in the values relates to a whole lot of other things.
Sure.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and that's what I'm trying to make the
appreciate
distinction.
that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes, and so just let's for operational definitions make those really clear. So the mission is the purpose is why we exist. The vision is talking about where we're going to go over the next 3 to 5 years. The values are the behaviors as an organization that we're going to demonstrate not only with each other, not only amongst the board, but when we're out in the community. Does that make sense? So there's a difference in each one of those particular mission, vision, values, operational definitions. Does that make it better in terms of thoughts?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Director
so-
Gracia, does that clarify that?
I don't understand what we're attempting to do with that. Are we
It's-
attempting to stifle a person's ability to debate issues? Because that's what it sounds like.
What, I don't understand where that even comes
Well, and
from.
when anytime you're talking about out in the community,
It doesn't say that
I
anywhere.
think that we just
I
heard
didn't mean,
that.
that was not, if you
Yeah.
interpreted that, I apologize for whatever words or verbiage I used.
Well, again, the vision, the use of the word reliable in the context of infrastructure in the vision relates to water. The use of reliability in the values has to do with many things. It has to do with, as you said, the behaviors that we as an organization exhibit, present, however you want to call it. Those two words, reliability in one and reliable in the other, are not the same thing.
That is a
You
true
can't draw, there is no other place in this vision statement where it says, I don't see in the vision statement integrity. I don't see safety. I don't see accountability. I don't see teamwork. So there's no direct correlation between those two sections. So right now we're talking about the vision, and we're going to pause, as you've said before, make sure that we all understand what that means and that we support it, I presume.
Correct.
And then we're going to move to the values, and you're going to go through each one of those
That would be
values that's
explicit.
listed and explain what that means in the context of the behavior of the organization and
Correct.
the people that are here. Is that fair?
That is fair.
you.
That is a correct statement. So when it comes to the vision and that sentence, is there any input or thoughts about the vision of what we want to accomplish as an entity over the next 3 to 5 years?
Above and beyond what's here? No, I don't.
Fair.
Anybody else? Okay.
Okay, so let's go to the values. The values are behaviors. This is how we say we're going to work with one another, not only as a board, but as staff, when we're working in the community, and amongst each other. I think that's the most important thing, because organizational behavior, it's really about the organizational health. So if we have good behaviors, think of it as your own health, good behaviors of working out, eating, sleeping, all that good stuff, good behaviors of how we work with one another drives up employee engagement and makes the organization healthy, because we're able to have good conversations, good interactions, and able to get the work that we are mandated or asked to do. So these are the values that were circulated around. These are words that the different groups that we were with, that I was with personally, the executive team, the management team, and then the staff. And so we landed on reliability, integrity, safety, accountability, and teamwork. So reliability is providing, as a behavior, providing trustworthy, responsive, consistent, dependable service to our colleagues and our community. So how we work with one another to make sure that we are constantly keeping people informed so we can do good work, as well as the community, that they can depend on us, that we're reliable to do the work that we say that we're going to do. So that is where the colleagues and community comes in. We didn't want to just put employees because there are interagency workings that are happening. So colleagues are being across different agencies. We want to make sure that we're reliable to the work that we deliver, that we're trustworthy, and that we're providing that responsiveness. So I'll pause to see if that helps qualify what that word means.
I appreciate your attempt, but it doesn't explain why it's there, why we're interchanging it. And it seems like it's an attempt to temper debate among the board members, whether it be in this room or out in the public. And I'm not sure that's healthy, you know, because it forces other board members to take sides, one against the other. And eventually that interjects itself into ugly elections where we have water districts outside of our own agency funding, for instance, a water district that I once served on the board of paid $30,000 to endorse, to a local newspaper, to endorse candidates that were incumbents against me.
I thought we were here to talk about the Desert Water Agency.
I think that this is.
I don't.
well,
I didn't come here to talk. I didn't come here to
we
talk
ha-
about the Mission Springs Water District and an election. Okay.
Well,
We came here
you're-
to talk
you are-
about-
What you're doing is you're shackling the
No,
ability
that's
of
not
one
what's happening
director
here.
to defend
I
himself
totally disagree
against
with you.
another who sits silently
I
bribing
totally-
newspaper
totally
reporters
disagree
to
with
say
you, sir.
bad things and do the dirty work.
I'm going to ask you to stop, and I'm going to ask Director McKenna if he has anything he'd like to add about this term of reliability in our values.
Yeah, I think I'd like to make my earlier point of in the reliability. We should put community ahead of colleagues. That's a minor point, but because it says and, therefore they're both included anyway. But I think I'd like to see community given.
You want the emphasis on the community.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, that's all.
Are there any other thoughts about that? or
I was just
anything?
going to point out that I think it's important in this sentence that it says all these adjectives, trustworthy, responsive, consistent, are in related to service and related to water service, sewer service, all of that. It's not about, whether one board member is trustworthy or the next is not, or, reliability. It's that we're providing a trustworthy, responsive, consistent, and dependable service with other agencies, to other agencies, and to the community.
Vice President Bowman?
That's how I look at it.
So are you okay with
Yeah,
putting
no.
the community before the
Oh, yeah.
colleague? Okay.
Mhm.
I think it's critical that as a team, both the board and staff, that we have a consistency with each other. And the idea of serving or reliability and dependable service, it doesn't matter if we say colleagues or community first, it's all the one and the same in my book. Because we all have people that we report to and people that report to us. We're kind of in the middle as a district. We serve water to the public. We assist sister and other organizations in their endeavor to do the same. And we work together as teams. So that we're counted on as being trustworthy, responsive is what, to me, that is what it's saying.
And just for clarification's sake, this was also vetted through the 64 different staff members, because one of the most important things about behavior is I should be able to come in with a video camera without hearing a word and be able to see the behaviors of the work that we do and how we respect one another in that. So that was the preface by which they went through the exercise with me.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't catch that.
I'm
What
sorry.
about video cameras?
Oh, I'm just saying that the behavior should be observable behavior.
I
So
think it's all on video and it's all posted to YouTube, thanks to me. Just as Channel 17 throughout Riverside County.
Okay.
no, I'm talking
Director
about, I'm talking
Gracia,
about the.
Director Gracia, you've had.
I just want to make the point that nobody's
You're-
trying, well, I don't think I am.
I think.
Explain how I'm missing the point.
I think the video camera was metaphorical.
Yes, it was a
it
metaphor of
probably
the
was, but I think
behaviors.
I mean, her use of the term video camera was metaphorical. It has nothing to do with what gets posted on YouTube or Channel 17 or whatever other media, outlet you want to call out. She was basically saying, if I can, that someone should be able to walk into a room. In this case, you said a video camera, but it could be observable, as you said. Observable was the word you used. Somebody should be able to walk into the room and see the interaction and the behavior that's being exhibited, and it would follow this. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Thank you.
And I agree with that 100%. The problem is it sweeps under the rug way too much.
It does
And
not.
to allow that to happen, allow the public to have a misrepresentation of what's really going on between these two agencies,
We're not
in my
talking,
view,
this is not about what's going on
not
between you and the
responsible.
Mission Springs Water District, sir.
This agency is
This is
one
not about
election
that.
away from
This is what we're
disappearing.
talking about, how we as the agency work. That's what we're talking about. I don't care what happens at Mission Springs Water District in this
Not Mission
context.
Springs, it's Desert Water Agency. All right? I just don't get how everybody can just pretend like that cloud is not out there.
I don't
And,
think anyone's
insist
pretending.
that the only one willing to talk about it be shut up, silenced, and told by the document here that he has no business pulling up the rug and showing everybody the dirt.
If I may, and maybe I'm out of line by saying this, but I pride myself on my profession and what I do. And I have spent many times working with people at the granular level of the organization because I believe in healthy organizations and I believe in psychological safety to be able to share. In no way, shape, or form would my behavior as a consultant be represented in something of what you're alluding to. And so I don't want to say that I take offense to it, but there is a point where I'm saying we have done due diligence to make sure that the voice of the employees have shown up in this document in terms of how they're going to work with one another. At no point is this to tell them that they are not to have a psychological safe environment to bring their voices because that's the talent. That's what we're investing in every time that you pay paycheck. So I want to make sure it's clear from my framework and my philosophy of work that I would never put anything out there that would hush people because I believe in the collective wisdom can solve anything.
Well, I appreciate your outrage, if that's a way to put it. But I've been around the block a few times. I understand how all of this nuance plays out in the end. It gets quite ugly. It can be ugly. This is a benign meeting that shouldn't have these issues come up. But because these issues lie out there and kind of boil over, eventually they expose themselves, just as it did here. This comments that I've made have nothing to do with your work. Exactly. But
So let's move on.
well,
Let's
she's
move-
saying
No,
what
no,
we're
no,
saying
no.
here is that we're agreeing not to address difficult subjects, and that is wrong.
Would you like to move on, Director McKenna?
Go ahead. I don't care. I said
Okay,
my
then we
piece.
will.
I think I'd like to focus at the topic in hand, not some other issue that, you see a monster under the bed, but we're not even looking there. This is about us, and stick to us.
Yes, that's what I've been trying to say. So I think we should proceed so that we can actually get through the rest of these and make a decision on what we're going to support. So thank you.
You bet. So we're going to go on to the second value, which is integrity, and that is demonstrating respect for others, engage in honest, transparent communication, and striving to maintain the highest standard of ethics and quality of work. That is what we mean by the word integrity as one of our values.
Are there any questions about that? Okay, thank you.
Okay. The next one is about safety. It's focusing on and investing in proactive system maintenance and monitoring, training, equipment, emergency preparedness, and community outreach for employee and public safety. That's what we mean by safety.
Are there any questions about that? All right, thank you.
The fourth is accountability and is being honest and taking ownership for one's actions, fostering trust and respect among colleagues and the community. Any questions or thought about accountability?
Can you tell me, I'm sorry.
Yeah, this is the
I'm
time
used
to
to-
ask a
this is-
Can you
question.
tell me exactly what you're saying here?
Sure.
And who, that's under what? Teamwork?
Nope, that's accountability. So accountability is being honest and taking ownership for one's actions.
Okay.
It's fostering trust and respect among colleagues and the community.
So exactly how is a board supposed to take ownership of one's actions if we're not allowed to address those actions and we're,
You'd have to give me an example because I think you're speaking too broadly for me to understand how to better facilitate
well,
this word.
I'm assuming this is directed at the board because we have to vote on it. So we're agreeing to,
This is for everyone. This is the agencies. This is not a board strategic plan. This is a strategic plan for the agency. So you as the board are setting the guardrails with the mission and vision values that not only says that you will uphold it, but all the way to the very first, the new person on payroll will uphold this.
Everybody who gets a check from this agency on a regular basis, that's what we're talking about here.
Exactly. We're talking, this is an agency strategic plan. Any further questions?
no, thank you.
Okay. And the last is teamwork, is working towards a common goal through respectful discussions, collaboration, and consideration of viewpoints to execute Desert Water Agency mission. So I kind of botched that. I'll read that again. So teamwork is working towards a common goal through respectful discussions, collaboration, and consideration of all viewpoints to execute Desert Waters Agency's mission. So going back to the mission, because we always want to create a loop, a closed loop, that a feedback loop. And that's the important thing, is that we work together for the mission. And let me just remind you what the mission is to responsibly manage our water resources to ensure ongoing sustainability and to deliver safe, reliable water in an effective way for current and future generations. That's what our teamwork is about. So I'll pause to see if there's any questions about the values that we just went over and how it all dovetails with the mission, vision, and values.
Are there any questions? All right.
Okay, so with the exception of making a correction or an adjustment, which would be on the reliability, asking for the community to go before the colleagues, is there any other changes that you would want to make to the mission, vision, values?
I believe Secretary Treasurer Bloomer, you had a suggestion as well, as far as the language?
Oh, no,
Okay, you were just,
I was just
oh, you mentioned service.
clarifying.
Okay,
that
all right.
all those are related to service.
Okay, that's,
I do have a comment
okay,
on that.
please.
I don't think I would want to change, and it might be nitpicking a little bit, but I think colleagues have to come first before community, in the sense that we as a team work together to serve the community. And if we're not collaborating and being trustworthy to each other, we cannot be to community. I think it's critical that we are together to help those beyond us. If we flip it and say community, one could then go on a spree and say, well, I want to serve this community in this way in spite of what the rest of the people think. So it's just maybe a little refinement on it, but what would you think about that, Gerald?
I would defer to you on that because I don't believe it's important enough to, if you feel strongly that colleagues should come first, I'll
Without colleagues, we don't have a district.
that's
And just from color commentary, I believe was a big push for the staff, is that we need to first kind of do it right
Yep.
here, practice what we preach, practice what behaviors we want out in the community. So that kind of goes in line with what you had mentioned.
Well, I'm happy to use you on that point. I don't have a problem with it.
Okay.
Okay. So this is an action item,
It is.
which means we're going to take a vote
That is correct.
one way or the other. So I will be looking for a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the mission, vision, and values as presented.
Thank you. I'll look for a second.
I will second that.
Thank you. May we have a roll call? I have a first from,
Discussion. They have a motion and a second. Calls for discussion.
okay. What would you like to discuss that you haven't already discussed?
I think it's important that the items that are listed here have that individuals have the ability to address things that are said. For instance, if
Director Gracia?
if one director goes on, if
The discussion's actually between the five of us.
that's right.
So why don't you
Well,
look, why
I
don't you
wanna-
look at us and have
She
that
wrote it, and
That's, we now have, we are about to take a vote. You asked for discussion. The discussion is between the five of us.
when do I get
The
to
discussion is between the
ask
five of
the
us.
question?
You already asked your questions. We are now talking, this is the opportunity for the board to have a discussion. The board.
Right,
It's
okay.
it's not time to talk to staff. It's not time to talk to consultants or people that are sitting out in the audience.
All right.
It's a time for the five of us to have a discussion.
So
You
let-
asked for discussion. Go
Are you
ahead.
gonna let me go or ask?
I'm
the
gonna let you
question, or Are you
go
gonna
to a
continue
point.
interrupting? Your interruptions are just obnoxious, and it's making me believe you're
And
not
yours
fit
are
to sit in
not.
that chair.
And yours are not. I've given you the opportunity to have a
Thank
discussion.
you. I have what I need to vote.
All right, then. May we have a roll call vote, please?
Director Gracia,
No.
Director McKenna,
Aye.
Secretary Treasurer Bloomer,
Aye.
Vice President Bowman,
Aye.
and President Ortega.
Aye.
Motion passes 4-1.
Thank you. Now for the second half of your presentation, please.
Thanks. So the second half is based on what the staff was, what the second part of, well, let's go to the kind of the tracking of strategic planning. So mission, vision, values is where you kind of create the bedrock. And then from there, you look at your strategic initiatives that are normally the 3 to 4 things that are really the critical areas rather that we want to deliver based on our mission, vision, values, and then those goals. So what we did as a staff, so we worked with the staff on this as well as the executive team to come up, what are those maybe large 3 to 4 initiatives? And we presented those in your packet. Along with those, what kind of goals would we say would fall under those? The goals are the bigger part of the tactical part of things. So I just want to take you to that page, and then we'll walk through just the initiatives to see your reaction and your guidance, because the next step after this conversation is to go back with your feedback to the executive team and the department heads to say, this is what the board is thinking. And how do we put something together that meets both the tactical part of what they experience every day and what you are you're thinking of out as a team, as a board. So bringing those back together and working through them, then coming back to you for your feedback and your approval. So does that make sense as far as the process, what we're going to be doing?
And again, these are these four strategic initiatives they came from those conversations with the 3 teams that you've mentioned.
Absolutely, yes.
Senior,
Senior management and staff.
Yes.
Yep.
Thank you.
And so let me just share with you what the 4 initiatives were. The first one was sustainability. The second was operational. The third was modernization. And the fourth was engagement. Those were the 4 large initiatives that we believe all our work should fit under those 4 in terms of goals and things that we want to accomplish over the next 3 to 5 years. So I'm going to just put it out there for you all to discuss. Sustainability, operational, modernization, and engagement. What are your thoughts when you hear those words? Maybe, initially, we'll get to the goals so you can see kind of the context of that, the content rather of those. but just want to pause there to see if there's, how do you want to discuss it in a way that would be beneficial to you all?
Are you looking for our feedback on our reactions to these four? Or are you looking also for feedback on things that we had hoped to see as an initiative?
Both and, yes,
Mhm,
yes.
okay.
So that the initial, this is what the staff and what we believe should be the initiatives. So I'd like to ask that, what is, in terms of what you're thinking, is there anything that you would add to those four, or a different word that would really encompass what you're thinking?
Well, I'm going to look to Director McKenna at the moment. I want to make sure that some of your concerns about power and energy sources are being addressed in one of these strategic initiatives.
Yeah, I'm glad you did. It seems to fall between two places. It's a sustainability issue, where we get our energy from, as well as where we get our water from. So is it in modernization? Is it in sustainability? It's a question. It falls between them both. But I think I would like to address a question to the staff, and that is, we have in place a 2020 to 2050 general plan, which is well known, I think, is a horrible document. It may work well as far as, where do we need to put new wells and so on, but it is terrible, terrible, terrible when it comes to sustainability. So I want to hear how we're layering these or integrating these two, strategic plan and general plan. What is the vision over there? How we're going to implement this?
I'll start, Esther. Well, when we met with Mrs. Williams, as I said, management and then the remaining staff all met. Sustainability, when we viewed sustainability, we looked at the goals that are listed here. And our vision of what the agency, how we can sustain ourselves, would be to follow these objectives. Part of the objectives would be to sustain yourself and to be reliable and efficient, would be to be efficient in power and how we operate our infrastructure. And also, when we look at our infrastructure, that's where the reliability comes in. That's why we're replacing all of our mains. We want that to be reliable. To be reliable is to be sustainable. So we felt, at least when I looked at this, you can have 20 initiatives. That just would be overwhelming. So we wanted to narrow them down to 3 or 4. We came up with these 4 initiatives. Then your goals can expand. Again, this is just kind of our draft initial walkthrough of the 4 initiatives that we all kind of landed on. Of course, your goals you can expand your goals within the initiatives. And if there's something that you see that maybe we need to put in the goals, then this is the time where we can look at that and say, hey, there's something missing in our goals under one of these initiatives. But we needed to narrow the scope. Initially, there was, I think, we talked about 7 or 8 different things. We narrowed down to 4 real key points on initiatives. Goals, there were many more goals listed, and so we tried to pare that down too, so that you're just not, you can be overwhelming yourself if you have a document or a thought process that lists 50 different goals. So again, we were trying to pare things down. And again, this is just our first run through. We're having this discussion. We're going to have other discussions. We will then get it to a point where we feel it's ready for the board to then make a decision on. But that's my thoughts on things.
Well, and to the point is that this is supposed to be a guiding document for the next 3 to 5 years. So to have, as you said, to have 50 goals in 3 to 5 years is not likely to be accomplished unless we were, an organization like Metropolitan. But we're 85, 90 people.
That is correct.
So, given the time frame that we're not talking about a 15 or 20-year time frame, we're talking about a 5-year time frame.
That is correct. This is the initial first 5 years, and in 5 years, we'll come back to it. We'll look at what was working, what we need to add. It's a breathing document. It's not in stone, and you cannot add or take away. So you can add. You can, if something doesn't meet our objectives anymore, then you could remove it too. That's how I view this document and these processes.
Director McKenna, where do you feel it belongs?
I think what I want to hear is that this strategic plan will govern rather than the general plan. The general plan has a certain legal basis. This is strategy. It doesn't have the same legal basis. And I just want to hear that when it comes to implementing this strategic plan, I won't be hearing, oh, but it's not in the general plan, so we can't do it.
I think it would be, does this project meet our strategic plan? Yes or no? I mean, obviously, the general plan is how is our infrastructure so that we can sustain delivering water to the community, right? Do we have enough wells? Do we have enough reservoir storage? Do we have enough pipeline in the ground? Is the pipeline big enough? What do we need to replace? Those are all of what the general plan is intended to look at. We also were going to look at, we had in there, how is our power reliability? And it was removed, it can be placed back in there. But when you look at the general plan, those are all the things that the general plan is addressing. When you look at the strategic plan, you're going to look at, what is our mission, our mission, and how does a project, what are our mission, vision, value, but what's our mission? How do projects fit into that? Obviously, all capital improvement type projects are going to fit into our mission statement because it's reliability of infrastructure. So in theory, the general plan will follow the strategic plan. It's just, that's, to me, it's not vice versa. You can't have a general plan that doesn't meet our strategic plan.
At the moment,
Unless your strategic plan does not address reliable infrastructure. If you do not have a mission that does not address a reliable infrastructure, then it is not, your general plan would not follow that. But we put that into the strategic plan because we felt it was important to have that.
and I agree with that, except the problem I have, to be really focused on it, is the general plan does not contain the word sustainability. It's nowhere in the document. And I searched for it, it's just not there. In this document, sustainability is front and center. And to me, sustainability is what it's all about. There's a climate emergency going on out there. And we didn't, in the general plan, address it at all. We pretended it wasn't happening. In this document, we're dealing with it. It's front and center. And so what I want to hear is this document will govern over the general plan. And I haven't heard that yet.
This is not the law. The general plan is the law.
They are two different. The general plan has a specific reason why it's mandatory that we have a general plan that
That's the crux of my problem.
That states.
It doesn't address
And-
sustainability.
I think that you can potentially add maybe some issues. We had that in the general plan before regarding power. We did talk about
It's not in there now.
Yeah, at one point it was removed because I was not involved with that. But I think that there are potential things that you could add to the general plan that may address some of your concerns about whether it's power or sustainability on delivering water. But the general plan has guidelines that, we need to ensure that we have a infrastructure that meets specific tasks for the community, and you have to have the proper storage. Does your reservoir storage, is it meeting the fire storage? Things of that nature. You need to ensure that you have proper infrastructure to meet the potential demands of future homes and things of that nature. That's what the general plan is laying out and how we're going to get there. And it's really specific. This plan is to me, it's a bigger umbrella over the agency.
Might I add that we've had the general plan for several years now, and we've had several iterations of them. This is a brand new document. This is a brand new effort that we're undertaking because we've never had a mission, vision, values statements before or strategic initiatives that have been documented. So while the general plan does not currently address sustainability in the sense of power sustainability and the overarching environmental sustainability, as you're mentioning it, it does address the sustainability of our system and reliability of our system to our customers. So it does align with it in that sense, but that's not to say that in future iterations of it, when we go to start updating it here in the next few years, that we will, now that we will have this document, we will be able to look at it through that lens as well. So that's how I see those two documents, because one preceded the other, and now this one will come in over it, so we'll be able to look at it through that lens so that we can make updates in the future. But our general plan does address sustainability with the sense of reliability of service.
Well, the issue remains for me. When that general plan was passed by this board last October, I condemned it. I condemned it every 2 weeks from October through February. And I got no feedback from anybody saying, oh, we'll look at it again, we'll address that issue. This effort, I think, is excellent. It's wonderful. But it is separate from addressing the fundamental problem of the general plan. And I'm still not hearing anybody tell me, oh, we're going to deal with that. If we have this document and we pass it and it looks great, it doesn't affect what we do.
Regarding the general plan, I have advised Director Sines and Assistant General Manager Tate that because of conservation as a way of California life, our demands will be potentially radically be changing, which will change our storage requirement, how our infrastructure pipelines may be required, and therefore I have advised them that in 2028 a new general plan should be started because at that point we'll have a couple years into the California as a way of conservation, as a way of life. There's also the non-functional turf situation that will deal with our demands. And so in 2028, a new general plan should be, I highly recommend that it should be drafted. And at that point, the board could look at other issues. We should also include the power situation and put that back into the plan because it was in the plan at one point.
Well,
If I can,
Go ahead.
and then I'm going to turn to Director Gracia. You've given sort of a framework of your recommendation of how the next general plan should be developed. And you've you specifically called out two things that are now part of California law and regulation related to water that, as I have said before too, will drastically impact the demand for water in our service area, in this valley altogether. At that same time that's happening, the board, I mean, it would be foolish to me, it would make sense to me if this organization didn't also say, oh, we're looking at the infrastructure that the old school general plan that we're talking about right now, and storage and capacity and infrastructure and delivering and so on and so on, in the context of these new laws and regulations. It would be foolish for me to think that we wouldn't also at the same time be looking at this, right? I mean, this is what we're working on right now. This is that's what we as a board are telling the agency as a whole how we want to move forward. And that includes the general plan, redefining the general plan in a few years' time, right?
That's correct.
I think we should, proceeding with this effort, I think we should be aiming for, this is our strategic plan, and this strategic plan requires changes to the general plan.
Yeah.
That should be part of the implementation of this document.
Right.
It would be requiring it. I don't want to wait till 2028, quite honestly. I think, it could be, the situation could be dire by then.
Well, maybe our general manager can explain to us what actually it takes to develop a general plan, and how long it takes, and how expensive it is.
The general plan typically takes at least minimum of 12 months to prepare, 12 to 18 months. And cost-wise, it's expensive. Our consultant engineering firm assists with us on doing that plan. The reason why I said 2028 is, at least my opinion is we needed to get into how conservation as a way of life is affecting our demands. That's going to then dictate to us what is our maximum daily demand, so that we can design our storage capacity. It's also going to dictate what are our power demands. If we're not pumping as much, we don't need as much power. We don't maybe need some pipelines that are put in because the demand is not there to bring the water. How our system is designed is most of our wells are along the north part of the city because it's along the wash. And we found that that's the most strategic place to put our wells because it's the sand. We design our system, because the wells are mostly in the north, to allow the pipe sizes to bring them down from north to south. If the demand is not there, maybe our system is set to where we do not need to build those larger pipelines that come down Caballeros all the way down to the south end of town. Those are the things that I think that we'll need to be aware of, and that's why it was my opinion that 2028 would be a time to where you're going to have enough data to then make that decision. If you start a general plan in 2026, you'll only have this year of data to see where you're at. You probably need at least this year and 2026. So maybe 2027 is where you would want to start. But and that's why I
Okay,
feel that way.
I'm going to turn to Director Gracia.
I hope I'm not hearing that there's a suggestion that we start a general plan. I think that was starting to bubble up. I have no intention of asking this board to do that. But it sounds like there was that.
I have just recommended
okay.
to Director Sines
Okay. Thank you.
that in 2028 is my recommendation to start the general plan.
Okay, and so the other thing is reliability is our number one responsibility, not sustainability. I supported and continue to support taking a look at using solar power where we can to help with climate change. But the idea that we're going to shift this agency to, and I think that some quarters on this board believe that's what we should be doing, to a solar-powered water district is ridiculous. I supported it because I didn't want to see you leave the board. And that's really the only reason. The idea that we would jeopardize this agency's number one responsibility with the public to accomplish this idea that we run our wells off of solar power is not something that I support. But I do support looking at areas where it can be helpful, but not changing the general plan. I'd rather it wasn't in here because we're going to create an additional report that we have already, I believe, approved the contract for, and that we should use that opportunity to address those issues. It's not even sure it should be in here, but
All right,
leave that to the rest of the board.
all right. Secretary Treasurer Bloomer?
I like all these 4 strategic initiatives, and I can't think of anything to add or subtract.
Okay. And how about you, Vice President?
Yeah,
Bloomer?
I do agree. I like these 4 initiatives, and I'd like to just frame something for us, for my benefit and for the benefit of everybody. To me, a general plan is sort of like saying, hey, I think we should all go to Maine. And we all go, yeah, Maine is important. We got to get there. We got to take care of business in Maine. A strategic plan comes along and says, well, now, how can we get there? What is the minutia to fulfill the goal of getting to Maine? So I think when President Ortega asked you, Director McKenna, where you would like to see the solar type thing fit, I think that was a very good question, because I was thinking the same thing, because I'm wanting our staff to keep that in the forefront as a strategic initiative to fulfilling our goal of getting to Maine, to use my illustration. So, you know, I was looking, it could fit sustainability, it could fit modernization under infrastructure, and I think that they've heard all of us say, yeah, we want to take advantage of things of that sort. So anyway, back to the overall discussion of general plan versus specific. Specific is a living document, as our GM has said, and subject to being modified at all times to fit things. So those are some of my thoughts. I think this is a brilliant approach. I think all the work that the staff has done with the employees and coming up with the goals to then hit these 4 strategic initiatives is good.
All right. So this part of the conversation is not an action item.
Not an
This is a conversation. This is to
Correct.
give you and staff some guidance on how we feel about these initiatives, and we've done that.
I do have a couple of questions for you all. The first is, in fact, how do you want, because this was a very short interaction with these initiatives and these goals. Would you all like to have like a longer workshop where we work through this, or are you wanting myself and the staff to work through this and come out with more of a detailed plan that would include maybe some parts of the general plan being peppered in there so you can see how they're connected, because they are connected. Everything's
are.
interconnected. So I guess my question is what would help you all in feeling that your voice is being heard in this process, and that the tactical plan that we put in place is in fact aligns with what you want to have done? So would that be working with you more as a board in a longer workshop where we're literally working through things? Or is this something to take back to the staff, work through, and come back to you?
Well, we have a committee. We have a committee of
do.
2 that you've been working with. And one of the reasons that I asked Director McKenna to be on that committee was because of the importance of this particular subject in the overall scheme of things. And to echo what Director Gracia said earlier, I agree. Reliability is our *1 concern as an agency. If we can do that through sustainable power, all the better.
Okay.
But that will not be the driving force for this organization. There are ways to fit that in and where it makes sense. And if we can get to that golden spot of being 100% self-sufficient in our own power generation, then hallelujah. But we are a long way from that. And we do have as a board, we have agreed to support a study in that way. So what I would like to see going forward as far as this next step
Sure.
is that you continue to work with staff and our committee. And I don't personally feel, and maybe others will say otherwise, but I don't personally feel like we need to do an intense workshop on these initiatives and goals.
Okay.
So that's how I feel about it. Director Gracia?
The more of these meetings, the better, as far as I'm concerned. Eventually, it'll all get out there.
Okay.
But to that point, so what I would recommend is that I work with, in this order, is I work with the subcommittee to make sure that this framework by which we talked about the initiatives and the goals are aligned and that there's nothing missing. We flesh that out, and then I go back to the management and staff for their input. And then we flesh that out, bring it back to the subcommittee for thumbs up, and then we have another meeting. Does that sound like a good plan of attack going forward?
I think that's a good plan of attack. What do you think, subcommittee or committee? Whatever. Director McKenna?
Well, I feel my voice has been heard. So I'm happy with that. Yes, we'll continue with the process. As a parallel action is going on this whole, energy issue. Well, I think we can successfully weave these threads together.
Absolutely. Absolutely can.
I'm a good deal happier now than I was an hour ago.
Okay. Good.
Okay, so that is the conclusion of what I need. I just open it up for anything else that we would need to.
And President Ortega, I would just like to thank Mrs. Williams for all of the work
thank you.
that she's done on this. I also I want to stress that everything that was presented, the mission, the values, the vision, it was developed based on staff and boards. It was Ms. Williams, she just guided staff as to how we can approach it. Nothing in this document is Ms. Williams' words. And I wanted to stress that this is something that is the agencies. It's not the consultants. So
Thank you.
Yes, I think that's clear to hopefully all of us. You're the facilitator. That's essentially what you're doing.
I do.
Yeah, and you're very good at it.
Thank
So
you.
thank you. All right, so unless there's anything else, I will close this meeting. Thank you.